Very good morning, everyone. I hope you're all very well, doing well. Wednesday the 17th, just past 7:30 in the morning. I'm in the UK, so I definitely understand how you guys are feeling when you're up at this time. Nevertheless, here we are. Still some very good opportunities in the markets, and you'll see that pretty much just sat waiting patiently for price to come to our areas and not really doing too much at all in between. So we'll take a good look at that and we'll see where we fare throughout the day. Okay, so let's move this out the way first and foremost. So I'm on my MacBook, so I don't have the full screens like usual, but we will do it nevertheless. So here we are. Well, let's start from the 4 hour time frame because that's really the relevance, in my opinion, on the DXY. We're trending out of that higher time frame. Weekly order blocks to the downside, and the higher time frame weekly order blocks still to the upside. Prices away from that. So let's see how we can manipulate those two areas. Let's see if we can find a trading range, use the DXY as confluence as we always do, to then see if we can add that additional magic on top when we look to take a cross pair position. So at the moment, the DXY, it really hasn't done too much. And what I mean by that is in terms of reaching those higher probable areas and then moving away from those areas. Price is still yet to do that, but in between, yes, the DXY is having a little bit of movement. Nevertheless, I'm still a little bit reluctant to place just random order blocks sit on the chart. If I were to trade the DXY, this is exactly how I'd be trading it. Just how I'm trading the other pairs, I'm not really seeing too much opportunity because price isn't in those higher time frame points of interest. When they're not in the higher time frame points of interest, that's fine. I simply revert to 15-minute time frame only. Nevertheless, let's see again where we are. So 4 hour order block down the lows. That's as a result of this bullish engulfing candle. Of course, that's left a beautiful 4 hour order block behind. And that 4 hour order block is indeed supported by the weekly 50 MA towards the upside. So of course, by the time price wants to tap into that weekly 50 MA refined area down 4 hour, we're there. And then refined within that 4 hour, we have that beautiful 15-minute order block that caused that tremendously beautiful move towards the upside. In the inverse operation, then we've got this 4 hour order block up at the highs. Still by way of bearish engulfing candle this time, 4 hour order block is now available. And what I do like to see from that order block is the fact that we have pretty much the same. We are seeing something coming out of that order block, and that's what I like to see. Not just a bearish engulfing candle, that's great in particular for an entry criteria. But when we're looking to highlight those higher time frame order blocks, I really want to see what that order block has done. So what has that previous candle done in the market to suggest I should be putting an order block in there? Hence why we don't just put random order blocks in the middle of nowhere where price actually hasn't done anything from to suggest that's where the liquidity lies. It could just be an order block. So I think the 15-minute time frame looks really, really nice. And if I were to look at this in terms of any other pair, I would simply be waiting for the highs and lows. In between, of course, impatient traders, we want to be trading. But what I have seen is this bit of a session high. What I mean by that is, of course, where price has failed to break above for a certain period of time, particularly with these sessions across the top, you can see how price is just holding below from these session highs. So therefore, if price wants to get in, you see my alert is right there. I absolutely believe there could well be a reaction coming out of that area. And down at these lows, of course, we've already disclosed that. In the immediacy, am I seeing really anything else? Well, the fact what I have to tell myself when price action is just not really gravitating towards my areas is particularly on the DXY. If I were to trade this pair as any other pair, how would I trade it? So what I'd be looking for is areas in the market. So in terms of the downside, areas of the market we've most recently caused a high from there. Therefore, when price gets back down to this area, I'd be looking for reaction. So if I look to the left-hand side, can I start to build a picture up from that area? Unfortunately, I cannot. There is no 15-minute order block in and around this area. What I can see now is, of course, there could well be a session low in that area. So what I'd be looking to do is see if price wants to come back down to this area on the DXY, then could we find find a reaction from that towards the highs, inciting DXY strength coming out of that area. I think that's fair to say. Now, in the opposite direction, let's say, for example, from here, would I be looking to put a 15-minute order block to the right-hand side? Well, the question is, what has happened from this area? Have we really broken any structure points of any sort? In my opinion, no. The most recent high come from this area. Therefore, we are still bullish until that higher low has been broken to the downside to create a lower high for a lower low continuation. So I don't believe that a 15-minute order block should be placed in the market here, nor do I believe here's slightly different because at least we have one break of structure in favor of price moving towards the downside. So what I will do is put an order block in the middle of nowhere, and this is just as a bit of confluence to suggest if price gets there, we do have a confluence that price has broken a structure point. I don't believe it's a strong break of structure, as we've already disclosed, higher high, higher low for a potential higher high continuation. If we fail to get that higher high from this area, and this is why DXY here, I wouldn't be looking to take an immediate short position. What I would need to identify is that when that DXY starts to trend up into that area, can I then see a break of structure pullback area of imbalance, then look for the short? The difference here is it's already confirmed as a result of that break of structure towards the highs, creating that higher high. Price come back into that higher low. So what really I'm looking for now is just see if price is going to break some structure points, pull back once price is broken to the upside, pull back into that area, and then seek that confluence to take the DXY towards the upside. So I like the DXY. It's all right for now in terms of helping out, in terms of guidance where we can seek to go. But as you can see, we're a distance away from those higher probable points of interest. When I zoom out, those 4-hour order blocks, they are there, ready, refined areas to see if price is going to dig a little deeper into those areas before looking for a confirmation either towards the upside or a confirmation towards the downside. So that's DXY for me at the moment. I think I've just opened my calendar, but nevertheless, let's keep on going. US dollar JPY. So again, 4-hour time frame. That's where we're stemming from at the moment. So the question is UJ ready for a turnaround towards the downside? What we've already disclosed on the DXY is, well, potentially not. However, a turnaround on the UJ could simply be price gravitating back towards that session low area, or if this isn't a session low and it's just a pretty illustration that I placed into the market, US dollar weakness could come by the fact price could want to roll back down towards these higher probable points of interest to take price higher. So a UJ short, it looks okay at the moment as we seek to analyze it. What does that mean for us now? Well, can we get any confirmation based on UJ itself that UJ is ready for a turnaround? So I'll stick with the 4-hour time frame for now. We can understand we're in that higher time frame point of interest on the weekly time frame by way of higher time frame weekly order block to the left hand side. So we're gravitating out of that area and we're simply waiting for price action to give us that confirmation before looking to execute that short position. Now, of course, what's tremendously against us is the fact that the 4-hour time frame is incredibly bullish going into that area. However, well, I won't say however just yet, and the reason why we can understand the bullishness coming out of the area is, again, basic price action and structure. Higher high created in the market, regardless of that higher high coming into a 4-hour order block. Higher high, this is the higher low area that's been created in the market. Therefore, that is a key structure point. What I do like is if I slightly move this structure point up in the market, what do we have? We have, in my opinion, so tie everything together. Price came into that higher time frame point of interest by way of weekly order block. Refined within that weekly order block, we had this larger daily order, 4-hour order block. Coming into that 4-hour order block, we then had a bearish engulfing candle that left us with an order block behind. Therefore, here is my confirmation if I call this a break of structure. Therefore, my entry criteria should be around about now. So I've got the setup confirmed, but now I'm looking for the entry criteria. So yesterday, price came, was that yesterday? No, day before yesterday, price came into this 15-minute order block refined within the 4 to the left-hand side. And now we generate, and in fact, that is the 4-hour order block just this newest one here. So price just tapped into it. So I was looking for a price to come back up into the area. However, as price tapped into it on the 15-minute time frame, what did I not have? I didn't have a break of structure from that structure point as price was printing up towards the upside. So this 15-minute position, you could say, was a bit of a risky position, and I didn't take it because I didn't have that break of structure. And I am seeing a lot of really nice looking price action, which is telling me just 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 have some patience and wait for those setups to really develop and come to you. So of course, going up into that area, as a result of that move, we made a higher high coming out of that area. Therefore, for me to have the full confidence and take a textbook position, I want to see that area be broken to the downside, then come back into that area of interest before looking for the short. Of course, we didn't see that break of structure, and then guess what happened? We made a high, higher low, and a higher high. Now I'm looking to rinse and repeat and do the same thing again. However, I might be slightly more aggressive today on UJ because what's the reason for that? Well, we've had a couple of signs that we could be ready to turn around. We've been very patient and understood that we're waiting for price action structure to develop first and foremost. Do I have range down to the 4-hour 50 EMA at this time? The difference when we were down here with price action, we were trending right into that 4-hour 50 EMA. What I'd like to see happen is price still move away from the market and give me that textbook position, break structure, pull back, then look for the short. Now, the reason why I'd be slightly more aggressive is I think I just have an inclination. So this is technical out the window because technicals, they are suggesting a short position, but the intricacies of the technicals to indicate a short position aren't quite there yet. So what I'll be looking to do is see if I can take this as an aggressive position on a lower time frame from this 15-minute order block that's been created in the market on the basis that I get a break of Asia today. So I wouldn't really want to see price come straight back up, and then that would then pose the question for me. I think the better play would see if we can get a snap of Asia towards the lows once London has opened, pull back up into the area of interest. I'll look for that lower time frame break of structure on the 1 minute or even on the 5 minute, then look for that short position. So UJ, very much so a yes at the moment. And the reason for the aggressiveness as well is the fact that I have that inclination that, well, if my illustration on the DXY is just an illustration, not so much a session low, then I do see where the DXY could roll further down to the downside. And with that DXY weakness, I want to take advantage of that with UJ that looks all right at the moment. And then I'll be looking to take a short position in line with that DXY weakness. So that's UJ for now. AUD USD, bit of a disappointing pair to be honest at the moment. Trading out of that higher time frame order block, really want to look for short positions. Been wanting to take short positions for a very, very, very long time. We've now had it confirmed across the higher time frames, even so on the lower time frames as well. And I'm just really waiting for price to come into my area. Yesterday, on the flip side, price came beautifully into the key structure point in terms of price meet, and I'm on the 15-minute time frame now, top left-hand chart. Price, if we look at the 15-minute only for a moment, we're making higher highs and higher lows. We had this 15-minute order block to the left-hand side, and price came in just as we were, well, as I was marking the charts, to be honest. And that's sort of the end result. We didn't have price come back down to that area all day, nor did we have price come back up to the higher area either. So what I'll be looking to do is understand where would be the better play. In my position, I'd be more inclined to take a short position on AU than I'd be inclined to take a long position. And that's coming from my higher time frame bias. So I understand here, they're right, we are in a nice trading range based on the 15-minute time frame. But if I look at my higher time frame, based on the 15-minute time frame, we are in a nice trading range, and then based on the higher time frames, for me technically is indicating a short position. Therefore I will hedge on that side to see if I can get that short position into the trading journal today. Let's have a look to see exactly how. So higher time frame points of interest, 4 hour order block. We're not quite there yet. So I still do believe that this area of the market is going to be the best area for the short position. However, seeking to adapt as a result of really not taking any position for feels like quite a while, to be honest. I would like to take a short position on AU. So we've got previous daily highs, prices failing to break above at the moment. That's good news. It is a structure point in the market as a result of price. As we said, price made a high from here. We'd then be expecting a higher low, confirmed higher high, confirmed higher low rather as a result of this higher high being created in the market. Prices come back into that point of interest where we would be expecting a reaction. We've had the reaction, but did the reaction then create a higher high? Unfortunately, it didn't. It doesn't necessarily mean I should be now looking for immediate shorts, but for me, that's a clue that we're failing to break higher. Therefore, if we're failing to break higher, what should my mindset be? Be gauged towards taking short positions. Therefore, if price wants to come back up into this area of interest, again, two ways of taking that. I foresee that taking a position once you've had a better break of structure, that is always a best case type of short position. So I'll be understanding my alert is here. I'll move it down in just a moment to see if we can get a break of that key structure point that created that most recent high in the market. We've now created the first low. I'd understand if price then would want to come back up into that point of interest that is there waiting for us, then indeed I'll be looking for a short position down. In the immediacy, would I be looking to take an immediate short position? Well, what I'd seek to understand is if price comes back up into this area, to safeguard myself taking a position prematurely, that I have taken a short position on the basis that we haven't broken key structure points, in particular this higher low area. So currently, technically, we are still bullish until we have broken that higher low. What I'll be inclined to do is see if I can get a lower time frame break of structure from here. So I understand I already have a 15-minute order block and I do have the option to take that position short, but I don't think that position is clearly ready just yet, particularly without this. So therefore, from that area, I'm just going to see how price is going to react to it rather. Can I see a bearish engulfing candle coming out of that area? If so, what I'll be looking to do is go down onto the lower time frames and then understand what price action is doing once we get there. More than likely, if you do have that bearish engulfing candle, you will definitely have a 15-minute order block on the 15-minute time frame and on the lower time frames. And then once I get that candle, I'll be understanding how big is that bearish engulfing candle. Do I have any significant breaks of structure on the 5-minute? On the 5-minute, then what I'll be looking to do is doing the same thing. 5-minute order block, 5-minute break of structure, 5-minute entry from an order block. So that's what I'll be looking to do without that break of structure, which is very much so the riskier play. However, once price gets there, I'm just going to see how price is going to react to that order block. So that's AU for me. AU very much so looking for shorts opposing to the long position. And then with that said, can you short AU and short UJ at the same time? I don't believe you can. Therefore, once price gets to these areas, I need to understand what the DXY is telling me. Once price gets up to these highs, where is the DXY? Does the DXY suggest to me that it's going to strengthen from these highs in order to drive AU down? That's what I have at the moment for AUD USD. US dollar CAD, for some reason that has an amber. Let's seek to understand why. So the reasons why US dollar CAD is an amber is because, well, let's understand first and foremost what's going on in the weekly time frame. Weekly time frame, there's not too much going on at all. No wick imbalances to use. We are trending within a very, very, very large higher time frame weekly order block. So of course, short positions at some point would be the play. However, as we look to refine that weekly order block lower and lower, we really want to be at the highs of those areas. And what I do see on the daily time frame is a daily order block right there at the highs as well. Therefore, I foresee at least price pushing slightly higher. So that could well help me in terms of understanding, could UJ be ready for a turnaround? Could AU really be ready for that short position that we were speaking about based on continued DXY strength? At the moment, it's making sense. However, seeking to understand if a position is available sooner rather than later. Let's understand that. So based on the 4 hour time frame, don't really have any real reason to be looking for a short position just yet. And in fact, based on the 4 hour time frame, just looking at the trend, what's going on, and how's that 4 hour 50 MA performing. So what I can see is clear high highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. Can we make a high high from here? Much like the same pair disclosed before, after a higher low, I'd of course be expecting a higher high. When I fail to get that higher high straight away, I become slightly more interested. But I don't want you guys to take that in terms of interested, meaning short immediately, because we are still in a higher time frame trend towards the upside. Therefore, until we get some significant breaks of structure, taking those immediate short positions are very much so a risky position. What you want to see is structure points broken. So, being aggressive, what you could understand is to the left. This is where the most recent high came from. Higher high, perhaps looking for price to make that higher high. Failure to do so. Can we then see breaks of structure on the 15-minute time frame to support our reasoning for wanting to go short? At the moment, only a very, very, very aggressive break of structure, meaning I do believe it could be slightly a little bit premature to take that reversal trade at the moment. And then with that said, what we'll be looking to is analyze price action on that 15-minute time frame. Can I hand on heart say that the most recent high in the market, just in this leg, has come from this position? I can't really say that because if it's here, well, why not here? Why not here? And actually, why not there? Therefore, the key structure point here in the market, and I know impatient traders don't like to see this, but this is the way to consistency to understand exactly what's going on. This is the key structure point in the market, particularly in this most recent leg. So the best way to look to take this position, it has to be said, it is a break of structure from that key structure point, pull back up into an area of interest, and here you can be as aggressive as you would like in terms of that short position because you already have that confirmation that structure is now on side. By the time price gets to here as well, we've broken towards the downside. We would have broken the 4 hour 50 MA. You'd like to think so. 4 hour candle as well would be closed below it, and you're simply waiting for that lower low in the market, lower high before that lower low continuation. So that would be the best type of play. Now, in the immediacy, what you could seek to do is understand how accurate is my illustration. Any breaks of structure can be just put into the pocket and added for that confidence. So here in the market, I've highlighted this area because there was an order block from what I remember. No, there wasn't. So it is just a pretty illustration at this point, but what you can seek to understand on the lower time frames now, if you seek to go towards the 5 minute time frame, do we have breaks of structure from these structure points? If you look at this a little bit more intricately, you could say high, higher low, higher high in the market. Therefore, if this is a higher low confirmed, it is a structure point. Do we have a break of structure? Well, it remains to be said. If you're going to take that as a break of structure factually, then what you do have is what we've just explained. Low in the market, looking for price to make that lower high for a low low continuation. So I do believe it's a potential opportunity for a reversal. Would I be looking to take US dollar CAD shorts in the immediacy? I don't believe so. I don't believe that that is going to be the best type of position that we could look to take today, particularly if you only have a limited amount of trades that you can take per day. I think that this would be, it's an okay looking trade, but certainly journaling this type of position, you would gently understand why it wouldn't be the best type of position, just in my opinion. I would much rather, and I know I've said before, journaling losing trades when those losing trades are textbook trades. You don't mind journaling them because what more can you do? If I was to take this short position and lose, for good example, the question would be, well, Charles, what more could you have done? And it's very evident what I could have done. Wait for significant breaks of structure. I don't have to be in every position just because I forecast that price is going to move away from that area. And that, again, is a key part to consistent trading. We understand as technical traders that use technical analysis, we always forecast where price is going to go. Therefore, as a result of forecasting where price wants to go, it's a bit of our own disadvantage because we want to be in those positions. But being in those positions, we have to ask ourselves over and over and over again, does it make sense for me to be in this position? At the moment, personally, for me, it doesn't. I can definitely see how I could be in that position or get in that position, but it doesn't make it right. But I have an alert there nevertheless, just to see how price reacts. Of course, if price comes into that area, we have another snap in the market, even we have a break of Asia lows and then pull back, then I'd have a bit more confidence to put in my pocket and journal. It's not just I took a position based on a reversal 15-minute order block, previous daily highs. What I can also say as well, there was a slight break of structure based on facts, immediate break of structure, that is. And then we have price come back into the 15-minute order block, reject the previous daily high, snapped Asia to the lows, pull back up into the area of interest that was left behind as a result of that break of structure or break of Asia lows. And then I look for the short. So that sounds to me already even a lot better than just saying I've taken that position now. So that's where I am at the moment on US dollar CAD. I don't mind it, but as you can see by the fact it's amber, I do have a lot better options out there. So GU, I don't mind GU, I must say. So high time, again, GU is one of those where it's definitely not up there as a favorite. At the moment, GU for me, higher time frame daily order block looking to take price to the downside. Most recent daily candles closed below the daily 50 MA, so that's certainly a good looking confluence to look for a short. Now, as we go to the 4 hour time frame, I'm still not really seeing any clear trend developing. So I still do have that higher time frame range on the market just based on this great illustration at the minute. However, always with range, I always ask myself, well, Charles, what if you're wrong and you've just drawn a nice looking grey box on the chart to try and understand that you're in a range? What if you're wrong? And what if price action is actually developing and trending? So for me, I have to ask myself that and then look at that. So the first thing that I'm understand, I'll do this in a red line, is here is an area in the market where price is failing to break below. But what I also must understand was a low was created from this area. Once we had the low in the market, I was expecting a lower high for a lower low. Did I get a lower low? Unfortunately, I didn't. Therefore, this area in the market just hit by way of 4 hour order block. It hasn't really done anything overall. However, in the immediacy, yes, it has. Therefore, to take a position from this order block, you wouldn't be completely wrong. But when you seek to understand the highs and lows that are coming out of the market, there is certainly a reason why you could understand that this trade could lose. Because if you revert to the fact that I believe currently that we could well be in at least a 4 hour range, then the better positions, of course, would come from the absolute highs and the absolute lows for the longs. Now, if we revert to the 15-minute time frame to see if we can understand this slightly different to build the picture and gain some confidence, if I zoom out, what's going on the 15-minute time frame? Can I identify a clear trend to a direction, regardless of what my direction may be on the 4 hour? What is the direction on the 15-minute time frame? So on the 15-minute time frame, we made higher highs, failed to make a higher low, higher high from this area rather, higher low, failed to make a higher high. So again, I'm not really having any real directional bias on the 15-minute time frame. What I do have is a session low to potentially take price towards the upside. Now the question is my higher time frame analysis supporting a long position to those highs from this area? So we're at this session low area. Look at my crosshair on the chart and we are here. Now, again, I have to ask myself, and I'll place that on all intervals for you to have a look. I have to ask myself, well, does that make sense to take a position there? Because what's the difference between this 4 hour order block and this 4 hour order block? For me, this 4 hour order block is in the middle of nowhere. Taking a position from this 4 hour order block, then suggests to me that then do I discredit the 4 hour order block to the left hand side just here? So you really have to be strict with yourself and say, well, this 4 hour order block in the market is only by way of bullish engulfing candle that didn't do anything. It only took price into another 4 hour order block up at those highs. Therefore, does it really make sense for me to be looking for a long position from this area based on higher time frame directional bias? Unfortunately, for me, it doesn't. If I'm going to look at using a 4 hour order block, I still think that this order block down at the lows is more relevant because it's the only 4 hour order block available and it is the lowest 4 hour order block to look for a long position. Therefore, taking a long position from this 4 hour order block, if you're going to ask me a question, order block one at the lows or order block two slightly higher, I'd be looking to take an order block from the lows. Therefore, refine this area down, which is just here, and wait patiently for price to come into the area. Now, because I'm a trader, intraday trader, and I like to trade, for me then I need to understand, well, how can I validate this area in the market? It is a session low, so it has already proven itself in terms of making those higher highs, higher lows, failed to make a higher high. But it's a new day. What I am going to want to see is price break the most recent high on the 15-minute time frame for me to want to be involved at taking a long position from there. So therefore, I would not be using my higher time frame directional bias for this position. It would be 15-minute only based on the fact we'd be using a session low as confluence. And even with that said, can I seek to understand if the EMAs are helping me out? So the 4 hour 50 EMA is most certainly on side at this time. This current 4 hour candle is trending above the 4 hour 50 EMA. So when price comes back down to this area, I would indeed be expecting a rejection from that 4 hour 50 EMA. And then my question is, well, where are my targets? Unfortunately, my target must be at this time the daily 50 MA as a result of most recent daily candles rejecting that daily 50 MA towards the downside. Therefore, based on 15-minute only, I would be inclined to only manage my position to that daily 50 MA. Then again, that's simply based on 15-minute time frame only. My favored type of position, if I feel that I'm incorrect, potentially could be incorrect rather with the range, it would have to be by way of short position, higher time frame directional bias. So if you look at my crosshair on the 15-minute time frame, you can see I'm hovering over the daily order block from the daily time frame. Now, for me, once I seek to want to take a short position, then I need to understand what price action is doing. At the moment on the 15-minute time frame, I don't believe that there is enough there to look for a short position just yet. What I'd really want to see is this session low in the market being broken to the downside, pulled back up into an area of interest before then looking to take a short based on all of the higher time from directional bias. And with that said, the refined area on the daily is this order block to the left on the 4 hour time frame just here. So refining this area down, we're somewhere in this region, and you can see the 15-minute order block just there, ready for price to be taken short. So a few areas of conflict at the moment. I don't believe price is ready for the long, and I certainly don't believe price is ready for the short at the moment either. So it's one of those where it's just heavily packed with alerts, seeking if price is going to break towards the upside for a potential 15-minute only long type of position, or if it would break to the downside, then it would be my favorite position based on higher time frame directional bias. However, with that said, I still have the understanding that my first initial thought process is that we are in a range. So it's one of those where there is a few elements of conflict, and in doubt, I, of course, like you guys as well, have the option to stay out of the market and just wait for something a little bit more concrete to present itself, to simply just trade with confidence. And that's all the game is, really, trading with confidence. And the only way to trade with confidence is trade the positions that you feel are your best type of positions. If you were going to ask me a question, Charles, is this your best type of position to take? I'd say absolutely not. So that's GU for me. EU. I think EU is slightly it. I think EU looks slightly better. And the reason for that is currently I'm only one track minded on EU, and it's to take a short position from this higher time from directional point of interest. So GU, we had a little bit more in terms of points of interest, which could often conflicts the market when you have far too many points of interest. But for me, EU is very concrete. With EU, we were trending to the downside, of which I believe we still are. Based on a low in the market, you have to ask yourself, where did that low come from? Work your way back up. Here's the lower high. Look to the right hand side. Is price there? If price isn't there, what am I going to need to do? Wait for price to return to that area. So there's a 4 hour order block there. It has been mitigated all times over. Nevertheless, am I going to be trading from a 4 hour order block? No, I'm not. Once that 4 hour order block is refined down, and we're actually refining this down from a daily, which is even better in terms of directional bias. Just waiting to see on the 15-minute time frame, is price going to gravitate up towards that 15-minute order block for the drop back down, and using the daily 50 EMA as support to the downside, higher time frame daily order block, refined area 4 hour order block based on 4 hour structure and 15-minute structure. Of course, it's bullish at the moment. We've made a high, a higher low. Can we make a higher high up into that area? And then we'll be looking for a break of structure on the lower time frames, and I'll be looking to take that position short. So EU, I hope you can see the clear difference in EU than GU, and why I'm not inclined to force GU, but what I'm inclined is just simply wait for EU. So EU didn't really have to take too much to describe that. EU is most certainly a favorite in terms of the shorts looking towards the downside. And then the longs for me again, daily order block refined to the downside, or at the lows rather. Bottom right hand chart, daily order block very relevant as a result of breaking structure towards the downside. Therefore, if price wants to come back down, I am indeed expecting a reaction. That's what we've had from that daily order block. So can price return back down to that daily order block, refine within that daily order block? Of course, we're sat there patiently, refined 4 hour order block, then I'll be looking to do much of the same based on a higher time frame directional bias. But for me at the moment, let's see if an Asia range is available towards the upside to see if we can grab a potential long position. Yeah, I'd say so. So, overwhelming 15-minute time frame only. What's the trend? I'm gonna say the trend is bullish as a result of high in the market. Can I understand where that higher low came from? Absolutely. Is there a 15-minute order block there behind, left behind? Yes, there is. So if price wants to skip me altogether, and does not want to tap into this higher time frame point of interest, I understand that I'm still very much so bullish. Therefore, once price comes back down to these areas, I'll be looking for a lower time frame break of structure on that 1 minute. I'll be looking to fill most recent Asia. So that's very simple for me. I like AU EU a couple of times over for certain different reasons. I'll be happy to take a short, and I'll be happy to take a nice Asia range long position as well. So EU, let me slide that up very much. So one of the favorites today. GCAD, it's got an amber. GCAD. Why does GCAD have an amber? Let's have a look. So GCAD, there was nothing on the higher time frame points of interest based on the weekly time frame. All we're working with is wick imbalances. The party really starts when we get to the daily time frame. I zoom all the way up. Daily order block. Well, why that daily order block, Charles? What happened? Well, if I look to the left, one line will do it. We're making highs, and then we made a low in the market. Therefore, if price wants to come back up into that area, I am indeed expecting a reaction. The good news is, or I should say, really, the bad news is, we have indeed made a new low. Therefore, when price comes back in, here's the good news. I am indeed expecting a reaction again. The only thing is, as we start to continually reuse these order blocks, in my opinion, they lose their power, they lose their liquidity as a result of price coming into those areas and already having a move away. Nevertheless, what we seek to do is refine those order blocks down and see if our refined areas have been used over and over and over again as well. So refine within that daily order block, you can see this 4 hour order block here also, and it has been mitigated once, and we are back in that area again. So am I expecting a full power coming out of that order block short? Not really, but what I'm going to need to do is go down through the time frames again, refine these areas down, paired with structure, paired with breaks of structure to understand, is GCAD ready for a turnaround? At the moment, looking at GCAD on a 15-minute time frame like so, what are we? Bullish or bearish? I'm just going to have to say at the moment, overwhelmingly, just using your eyes, just on the optics, we're very much so bullish. Higher high in the market, higher low, higher high created. So therefore, most recent high, higher low, this becomes a structure point. This becomes an area where to get your full bias of confirmation, break of key structure point, area of interest, look for the short position down. We're yet to see that at the moment. Therefore, we are in aggressive territory, i.e., lower time frame breaks of structure, i.e., 5 minute and 1 minute. And I don't believe we have that just yet either. I think we're still very much so bullish on GCAD. And if I just put this on the chart for a bit more guidance to see exactly where we are in the 4 hour time frame, we are indeed there. So 4 hour time frame is not giving us anything in terms of telling us that we're ready to turn around just yet. We're very much so, as we can see on the 15-minute time frame, bullish. Therefore, head over to the 15-minute time frame and understand, well, where's the structure point? Can I see some structure points broken? So the first and best thing I'll be looking to do, break, pull back, area of interest, sure. That's the best type of criteria. Anything in between, as I've said, is aggressive. Is there a 15-minute order block up at these highs that I can potentially look to manipulate anyway? Well, what we have is this 15-minute order block. Then my second question is, well, Charles, what did that do? Nothing. Therefore, removed. I need to see price do something, even break this immediate structure point of most recent price action to then start playing around with order blocks up at the high. So at the moment, absolutely nothing for me on GCAD. I can definitely see how it could potentially start to develop, but while it's developing, that's where I don't do anything. When it's developed, that's when I can seek to manipulate potential areas in the market. So at the moment, GCAD, nothing for me going short. So if you've located a key area, key structure point in the market, could I potentially look at taking a long position from those areas? Unfortunately, there isn't a 15-minute order block. Let me see if it denounces a session low. Not really, because it's just a lower high at the moment. Excuse me, it's just a higher low that's created a higher high. There isn't really reason to put a session low in the market and start creating the story. If there was a 15-minute order block here, then absolutely I'd be looking to take that in terms of an Asia range position. But there's just nothing there. We can't force it. So GCAD is going to be one of those we're going to wait for price to develop over time and then seek to understand if we can grab a short position down. What we would need to see, or the only thing you really would need to see to gain all of your lower time frame confluence, is one bearish engulfing 4 hour candle. That would break structures on all time frames lower than the fall, and then it's be a very simple process, what we've described up here. Low in the market, lower high, lower low continuation, and you've got very, very, very good range down to the 4 hour 50 MA where price is respecting towards the upside. So again, it's premature at the moment, but forecasting ahead, GCAD is definitely going to be one of those pairs that I'll be looking to short at some point in the near future if price develops to the downside. And that's all I've got, team. GJ, not really looking to take GJ. GJ for me is not looking as appetizing as it was a couple of weeks ago. We're still just hovering in this 4 hour order block, of which caused most recent, you've guessed it, break of structure to the downside. So I like that 4 hour order block. I'll paint the picture a little bit more. Higher high, excuse me, higher low, higher high in the market. Price came down, expecting a higher low for a higher high continuation. We didn't get that. We had the opposite break of structure, pullback order block. I'll be looking for the short. Now we're trending higher and higher. excuse me, team, higher and higher into that 4 hour order block. And if I place that on the lower time frames, you can see exactly we're there. So same port of call. I need to understand when price, excuse me, when price action is ready to turn around. And based on the 15-minute time frame, higher high, higher low, higher high, key structure point, best, break of structure, pull back, short. Until we get that, I'll place an alert below, I'll place an alert above if price wants to move slightly higher towards these areas. Then we'll be looking for a short position up at this 4 hour order block as well. So again, premature at the moment, waiting for a structure point to be broken in the market before I do absolutely anything. So that's the rundown, team. There's definitely some good potentials out there. Price action is definitely tempting us into potential positions. But again, the key to longevity in trading is simply understanding when price is ready. And I don't believe price is ready at the moment. Therefore, just gonna sit on my hands, wait for the alerts to go off, and get on with the day, to be honest, guys and girls. So that's trading in a nutshell. Although we forecast where price is going, doesn't necessarily mean we need to be in those positions. Oh, before I lose my voice completely, thank you guys for your time, your patience. Appreciate the support as always, and you'll be hearing from me very soon. Take care. All the very best.